what do we have here? Check this out. So, it's always nice to come outside and see a pallet of subwoofers sitting in the driveway. Never mind the grass, guys. I haven't mowed my grass in about, I don't know, a couple weeks. Anyways, so what I got going on here is I'm getting geared up to get waveforming all active. And I've got 5 custom built subwoofers from RBH. Also, I've got 3 subwoofer amplifiers on here as well. So these are 5 subs that have dual 12-inch drivers in them that I'm going to mount on the wall because I need some elevation subs. All right, so I've got everything unpacked. It took me a little bit. Each subwoofer weighs something like 85 or 90 pounds each, so they are not light subwoofers, and they do get heavy after moving 5 of them. But let me show you what I got going on right now. The theater it's in pieces right now, but it's all for the good. These are the 4 subs. So I've got 2 of these 2 on the ends. These are going to go behind the screen, and then these 2 here, those are going to go right over here, which is right where these blue stickers are, where these pieces of blue tape are. I was going to put them up in the hush box area, but Shane's coming tomorrow to help calibrate everything. So temporarily, I'm gonna just mount these, or attempt to mount these, right in these spots here, which is right in between my back speakers. And then you can see here that I've got the 5th subwoofer, which is mounted directly underneath my center back speaker. So you can see here, I've got the right, center, and then the left, and then right directly underneath the center back, I've got the 5th subwoofer. So this is basically the center of the room. I'm going to, at some point, raise this up and mount this probably like right underneath where the LED strip is, just to give it a cleaner look. Now, one thing that I'm glad that I took care of when I was wiring up the room was that I did pre-run everything for waveforming. So I did this a couple months ago. So I've got extra cable here. This is for the left subwoofer, and then I have another one on the opposite end. And I've got an extra 2 lines each, so I can actually have 4 passive subs in the back. And I also ran wire for 4 passive subs in the front as well. So I mean, I'm only going to have 3 passive subs back here, no active subs at all, and then I'm going to have 5 passive subs up front. And what I have here, this is the screen. This is underneath the screen. I probably should have planned this out a little bit better because I've got to move this entire frame out of the way, which I did screw to the wall, so this is a bit of a pain. But you can see this is that there is the 21-inch Power Sound audio subwoofer, which is officially going to be retired. And the 21-inch sub is going to go right in that center spot right there. And as you can see, I've got the other subwoofer here. These are on stands, so I've elevated them a little bit, but I'm going to drop these down lower because these are a lot taller than the other ones that are going to be wall mounted, so they'll be slightly elevated. And then that's the opposite sub in the opposite corner there. And again, I'm going to take that down, put that down on the ground. So I'm going to be getting rid of those speaker stands. And here's the view from the outside. So again, that's the screen. That's a 150-inch Screen Innovations acoustically transparent screen. And again, I'm going to mount one subwoofer right up there. The other one's going to be right located there. Opposite corner sub there. Then right on the top, there's going to be another one right there. Now really quick, let me just go over the dimensions of the subwoofer. So we're looking at approximately 10 inches in depth. It is 22 inches from left to right, and then it is 32 inches from top to bottom in height. And how the subwoofer mounts to the wall is going to be with this picture hanging system or French cleat system. So essentially this would screw to your wall, and then as this is on your wall, the subwoofer would essentially just slide right on that. So you just lift up the sub, drop it on the cleat, and then you are good to go. Now these subwoofers are sealed, and if you have noticed, the 1212 speakers that I have in the front are actually ported speakers, but I do have plugs in the ports so that they will act as sealed subwoofers. And the way that these subwoofers are designed, these are sealed, they're not ported. So these subwoofers were built to sound like the speakers, like the subwoofers that I have right now, sealed. The only difference is going to be the 21-inch sub, which is this guy here, which is going to slide behind the screen. Now this is the best shot that I can get of the subwoofers that are mounted on the front wall. You can kind of tell that they're mounted right above the left speaker and the right speaker, and below that, you actually can't even see it here, but I have the other two speakers underneath the left and right speakers. But, you know, that was extremely hard to put on the wall by myself. Like I said, man, they're like 90 pounds each. And at least on the right subwoofer, you can see that I had to put some mounting studs because the studs weren't actually dead center behind these subwoofers. So I had to make some mounting points behind it. So I took some 2x4s and cut them to size. And the wires are not hidden. I don't know. I don't really need to hide the wires because you're never going to see them. But yeah, the wires are kind of dangling. You know, I'll clean it up at some point in time.
Okay.
Well, I got all the subwoofers hung on the wall, and now we've got Shane Rich from RBH here. We are now testing out the entire setup. We ran through probably an hour's worth of demos, basically the King Kong scene from Ready Player One, multiple times with different variations on the waveforming settings. And I think we came to a nice ground where we thought everything was nice. It sounded really good, actually. So before that, you know, I just ran really quick the quick calibration on the Trinnov, and you know, it was like 4 in the morning, so I didn't have time to do RU or anything like that, or AW. So I went strictly off of the calibration, and then that's where we are right now. And then the biggest difference I think that we made was the excursion curve? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we changed the excursion curve and then a couple settings like the decay time and then waveforming limiter. And we also found that turning off pressurization mode sounded a lot better, because with the pressurization mode on, that pretty much eliminated our infrasonics. But I thought it sounded really good. Seat-to-seat variation we got it between 0.48, which is almost perfect. It didn't exactly sound perfect. I mean, there's a slight difference between the front and back row, but it's really close. This is the closest that I've heard it so far. But we are now going to go back, and then we're going to rerun Trinnov Optimizer once again, then try out our settings that we thought worked well. But prior to this, Shane, what did you think on your first impression on waveforming? Because this is your first time using it, right?
Yeah, first time using it with the Trinnov in a theater with our product, and yeah, very impressive in terms of what it is able to do for the decay time, controlling the room modes, and definitely adds more definition to the mid bass, controlling those room modes, and it's just a more detailed, better defined bass experience. You can tell the room has been taken out, and there's much better decay time in the room. No question about it. It's very beneficial for a theater. No question.
Now, I didn't go over the specs on the subwoofers yet because I didn't know them, because they custom made these for my room. And that is something that you guys can do for anybody that's purchasing subwoofers. Am I correct on that? And also, Shane, talk about what you did to those subwoofers. What was the reasoning with that design? I think you wanted to kind of match the 1212s that I had.
Yeah. So what we ended up doing was making a subwoofer that it continues with the 1212 type of design that we've had in the past that you've been using for your subs up front here. And this is an on-wall version that would be more ideally suited to waveforming. So now you've got two of those subs above the subs that you already had in the front on each side, left and right. And then we've also got the same subwoofers in the back, on the back wall, in the 3 subwoofer configuration for waveforming on the back wall. So yeah, performance-wise, it's essentially equal all the way around, all the 1212 subwoofers in the room, and then we have the unrivaled 21-inch sub for the infrasonic information in the room.
And really quick, little review, mini review, or just actually first impressions on these new subs. You know, I have the I put the one in the center back of the room, and I moved the 21-inch, like I showed you guys in the video earlier. It's in the front of the room now because we wanted to have the strongest subs in the front of the room as emitters, and then the subs in the back are the absorbers. But you know, that one sub I have underneath the center rear channel actually sounded like a way bigger sub than I was expecting, like way deeper. You know, at my lower volume when I first ran Pink Noise, it was I kind of thought it was a 21-inch for a second there. So I mean, there's no slouch, and they're only like 10 inches deep by 22 by 33, I think it is, dimension-wise. Yeah, so it's a pretty slim sub, and to get that kind of extension down low. And you wouldn't think, I know some of you guys are probably like, oh man, you know, you need like dual 18s or dual 24s, Shane. But these dual 12s, what is like the surface area of a dual 12?
Yeah, very similar to an 18.
Yeah, so similar to an 18-inch. So, I mean, something that shallow and fairly not light at all. Guys, don't hang these subwoofers by yourselves. But yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed so far with the size of these subs and what they can reach, especially the depths they can reach. But we're gonna go continue on. We're gonna do this manual calibration, and then we'll be back. I got a little bit late, so we took the night off. Now we're back. We just ran the calibration, and we're gonna take a look at our first measurement pre-waveforming. So how's that looking right now with it off, Shane?
Yeah, it's a very respectable measurement. You know, it looks like what you would expect from most processors, I think, in terms of the overall, you know, plus or minus setting that you're getting, or measurement that you're getting in the frequency response. Going down, you know, we have usable output really down to 5 hertz.
All right, so we're getting some pretty good response pre-waveforming. We're gonna run the turn on the waveforming setting in their app, and then we'll come back and then see what we got.
Okay, so with the waveforming, this is the measurement we're getting.
Yikes! Look at that, way better than the non-waveforming. So
Yeah,
we're getting substantial output down low.
Much tighter, narrower level for sure in terms of the overall frequency response. Looks like probably plus or minus just a dB and a half, couple of dB from about 10 hertz up through, you know, roughly 80 hertz, and then has substantially more output, obviously below 10 hertz. So the infrasonic energy down here is definitely superior, no doubt about it.
It's been a couple of days now. Shane is now gone. I will say that after our initial calibration with waveforming and adding in all the extra subwoofers, what we did is that we didn't calibrate the subs beforehand. We didn't calibrate the subwoofers beforehand. We just let Trinnov do its thing, and then we did all the manual adjustments within that waveforming section in the app. And, you know, we were actually a little bit let down from the performance that we got without any kind of like pre-manual intervention. Typically, I would calibrate the subs beforehand and then make any manual tweaks, try to get it as flat as possible, have everything summed together to sound as best as possible. But, you know, the first time that we did it here with Shane, you know, I think he left a little bit underwhelmed after my first first initial calibration, and it didn't turn out as well as we thought it was going to turn out. So he had already left. I took it upon myself to calibrate it beforehand the third time around. So I got it nearly as flat as possible, as smooth as possible as I could. And then I will say that after I ran the calibration after that I got some pretty stellar results. And what I think made the biggest difference between this latest calibration with waveforming and then my very first one was that the first calibration I did was I had the subwoofers, the two corner back subwoofers, they were on the floor. And for the last calibration that I just did, I elevated the subwoofers so that they were in the middle of the wall. And I think that really made the biggest difference with the kind of coverage and the best frequency response. So I think if you can do it, you know, with subwoofers that you can mount on your wall, I feel like getting them off the ground definitely made the biggest difference. At least in my space, it made the biggest difference. I think the most impressive thing that I got to really experience here in my own personal home theater is that how the seat to seat, well, row to row evenness is pretty spot on between each other. They're not 100% perfect. I'm going to say it's, you know, frequency response wise, it's maybe like 96, 97% the same as it is between both rows. I still find that the first row has a little bit more oomph in that 45, 50 hertz range, whereas it's a little less present in the second row. And you can see here that I took some measurements, and I mean, aside from that spot there between 40, 50 hertz, they're pretty much even. Just having the Trinnov do it automatically, I mean, it's pretty stellar. I mean, the settings that I used minimum for both. Minimum decay and the minimum waveform limiter. And then I used the 12 hertz for pressurization. The first time that I did calibration, the pressurization mode didn't really work. It worked better without it, but this time around, definitely made a huge difference. And I think you can see that I'm getting some usable output down into the single digits. I usually listen to about 80 dB, and you know, if there's content down to 3 hertz, I mean, this subwoofer, this system will play down to 3 hertz at 80 dB. Obviously, the louder I go, the more I can push it, but I mean, single digits with that 21-inch subwoofer is really impressive. And then, of course, the 1212 SLs. I'm not sure what SL stands for. 1212 Shane Lee subwoofers? Is that what that's for? So the 1212 on-wall subwoofers, I mean, those things just rocked. They don't go quite as deep, obviously, as the 21-inch subwoofer, but these things slam. I mean, I was playing Midway. We listened to Ready Player One, Kong Skull Island, Edge of Tomorrow, and those things, they held up really well. Obviously, they can't do Edge of Tomorrow justice like the 21-inch can, but they hung in there pretty well. I mean, they're fantastic subs. They aren't the smallest subwoofers, but I mean, if you have a setup like this, if you have a Trinnov and you want to do the waveforming, I mean, these subwoofers were designed for waveforming. I mean, these were, you know, I told the Shane and the crew at RBH exactly what dimensions I needed and what I was going to use these for. I said I wanted to have some subwoofers that I can mount on my wall to fit this specific size. And I mean, they whipped it up really quick. So, I mean, if you guys need a specific size or a specific subwoofer for your home theater, you know, these subwoofers, whether you want to use this size or not, I mean, ideal for Trinnov waveforming. I don't know how you guys with Trinnovs are using your waveforming settings. Are you calibrating your subwoofers beforehand? Are you calibrating it afterwards? Or are you just letting the Trinnov do everything altogether? Like, what is your experience with waveforming? And also, even if you don't have waveforming, how are you calibrating your system? Are you letting Odyssey do it? Are you letting Anthem Arc do it or Dirac do it? Do you calibrate beforehand? Definitely let me know in the comments. But as of right now, this is the best bass that I've heard in my room. And thank you to Shane and the RBH team for lending me these subwoofers to try out in my theater, letting them be my reference speakers for the time being. So I'm really amped about that. And, you know, definitely stay tuned for the full review that I'm going to have on the 21-inch subwoofer. I still have to do that review. But that is my latest adventure in bass. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.